Good morning, everybody. We welcome you on this wonderful day, and we're glad that many of you have joined us in person. Some people joining us also through YouTube. Today's one of our kind of a special service as we're celebrating our 70th anniversary of our Unitarian Universalist Church. We had already kind of a service a little bit more a month ago. We had a talent show in March. We had a church picnic in May. Anybody who missed it, I hope we will do it again. It was so much fun out there at Booker T. Washington State Park. Also upcoming, probably in September, we'll see about the details. We might have a cooking dinner party, 1950s style. So just keep that all in mind. So what's special about today, as Mandy is out, our pastor, Mandy Goheen, our wowsers who organize kind of Sunday services, organized and today's Sunday service, which will be reflecting on prior pastors, and one pastor especially for today, and that's Charles White McGehee. If you guys can see in the back here, you see these photos of past pastors that was hung up. Nikki Osbeck and Judy Gallagher kind of are collecting right now kind of history elements, also past sermons. And so what we're gonna do today is, it's the most amazing thing. Actually, kind of we're gonna reflect and hear one of those past sermons from Charles White McGehee. I'm still working on his name. But otherwise, yeah, feel free maybe after the service if you have any questions. Nikki will talk a little bit about for herself about it. So keep that in mind. With that, let me kind of move into kind of the opening words for today's service. Charles White McGehee returned often to the problem of defining religion. In the 1960s, he wrote, "So the big question, is our government preoccupied with life or with death? What do these things have to do with religion, do you ask?" And I reply, out of the view of Charles White McGehee, can there be a valid religion which is not concerned with these things? Religion is both praise and protest. It is the priest who praises life, celebrates the events of its cycle, hails the wonder of its universe, and deals with its frustration and fears. But it is also the prophet who raises his voice against injustice, who protests the conditions which bring hunger, pain, and war, and incites men to survival and to the building of a world where peace shall reign in human hearts and forevermore. And in a 1982 sermon, he said, religious professionals, as well as religious lay people, should constantly define religion. It has been said that the core of wisdom is the process of definition. Out of the point of view from Charles White McGee, I join with Buddha, Jesus, Einstein, and Freud in defining religion in such a fashion as to cause us to weep, but beyond this, to cause us to set about the extermination of those things which cause us to weep. Not extermination of the species, entire races, or species of animals, but extermination of those evidences when people do not love one another. Jesus commanded, love one another, not vague piety, not tithes and sacrifices, but the weightier matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faith. In short, religion is loving and caring.
I'll invite Marge Pash forward to light our chalice. You'll find the words for chalice lighting inside your order of service. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And now will you turn in your hymnals to number 404, What Gift Can We Bring? Rise in body or spirit and join your voices.
What gift can we bring? What present, what token, what words can convey it? The joy of this day, when grateful we come, remembering, rejoicing. What song can we offer in honor and praise? Give thanks for the past, for those who had vision, who planted and watered so dreams could come true. Give thanks for the now, for study, for mission that bids us turn prayer into deed. This gift now bring, this present, this token, what words can convey it? The joy of this day, when grateful we come, remembering, rejoicing. This song we now offer in honor and praise.
Good morning. Do we have any kids who want to come forward for the children's story? Can I just take this microphone? Okay. Since we don't have any kids coming forward, would it be better for me to stay here or go down there? Doesn't matter. Okay. Well, I'm going to go down there then, so I can sit. Okay. So I have a jar, and in my jar is Reverend McGee. You can barely see him in there. Why do I have Reverend McGee in a jar? We're about to find out. This book is called Memory Jars by Vera Brusgol. On a hot, sweet, sticky July day, Frida went blueberry picking with her gran. Deep among the bushes full of fat blue fruit, that's a tongue twister, Frida ate as many as she picked. And I want these folks to see the picture too, because it's a really cute one. In fact, I'm gonna rearrange here. They tasted like sweet sunshine. They were the best right then, and they'd never be better. She ate until her fingertips were purple and her stomach felt like a giant blueberry. But still, there were so many left. I can't do it. I can't eat them all, moaned Frida. Calm down, French fry, said Gran. We can put them in a jar and save them. I use them for my special jam every year. It was your grandpa's favorite recipe. Teamwork. Frida had remembered her grandpa eating toast every morning with glossy purple jam on it, making sure it was spread all the way to the crust so every last bite was sweet. Frida remembered Grandpa. So if we save the berries in jars, they'll be just as good? Asked Frida. Yes, said Gran. The jars keep them preserved for a long time, so we can eat blueberries in January if we like. Frida had an idea. She tried her idea out on one of Gran's fresh chocolate chip cookies. It was very, very hard not to eat it. She put the cookie jar under her bed, said goodnight to Gran, and sorta slept. The next morning, she checked, and it had worked. The cookie would be warm and yummy forever. She had saved it. Frida wondered what else she could save. She was going to need a lot more jars. Frida saved all kinds of things. Okay, let's take a minute to look at all these things. Kaden, I want to make sure you can see these cute pictures. Okay, she saved Halloween candy, new stuffed animal tag still on, Broken's robin's eggs, poppies, unscuffed sneakers, brand new crayons, and this one I'm not so sure about, Rocket Pop unmelted. I think Frida may have gotten a little ambitious there. Frida didn't want Jack, her best friend on the entire planet, to move to Arizona at the end of the month. Neither did he. And now he wouldn't. She put her friend in a jar. Okay. Mrs. Alexander's beautiful singing voice drifted over the neighborhood as it did every Saturday afternoon, straight into one of Frida's jars, where the song would live safe and never ending. The cloud that looked just like a unicorn would never be pushed back into a mushy nothing by the wind. The laser bright rainbow would never dim as the sun moved. Oh, this is getting interesting. The full moon, her favorite shape, would never fade away and leave the sky empty and dark, making Frida feel alone. She took the stars while she was at it. Finally, Frida's favorite things were tucked away in jars. Everything would be saved and safe, just the same, forever. Almost everything. Wait, do you guys see Frida's next idea? What does she want to put in the jar now? She wants to put Grandma in a jar. Curious. Please. Well, all right, French fry. Anything you like. This is a very accommodating grandma. The neighborhood was very quiet as Frida and Gran went home. And you may not be able to see it in this picture, but Frida's all alone pulling her wagon, and in the wagon is a jar, and in the jar is a teeny tiny figure. This is Grandma in a jar. All that saving had made Frida hungry. The toast was warm and crunchy, but it was missing something sweet. She spread the jam all the way to the edges. It tasted like, oh wow, here she is picking blueberries with Granny, catching fireflies, eating a popsicle with her friend. All these memories suddenly come rushing back into Frida's mind. Frida remembered. And let Grandma out of the jar so that they could hug. On a cold, blustery day in December, Frida had breakfast with her Gran. "Whoops, we ran out of jam," said Gran. "Don't worry," said Frida. "We can make more next summer." Then she took a bite. It was delicious, just as she remembered. The end. And she's sneaking a piece of blueberry jam to her friend who's still in the jar. She didn't let him out. The end. So what we want to do today, we want to let Reverend McGee out of a jar. We have his words. Many people here have memories of him, and we want to let him out of the jar so that we can all remember him. And I do want to specifically thank, Nikki Osbeck, Judy Gallagher, and Leslie O'Rear, who've all been working so hard on our history project, and who you'll be hearing from some of them at least later. So let's let Reverend McGee out of a jar. And we're now going to sing our children off to their RE classes.
Go your way in peace. Wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take. May love guide you on your way.
We will take some time now for a time of meditation, spoken at first, and then a time of silence. I invite you to find a comfortable place in your chair. Take a few deep breaths in and out. Center yourself at this time and this place as I share this meditation from Wayne Arneson. As we enter into silence, we remember the many connections that sustain and uplift us through this religious community. We remember those who preceded us, whose contributions built a free faith, and who built a home for this practice. We remember those around us whose continuing care in thought and deed is an ongoing blessing in our lives, keeping the dream of free religion alive in our time. We remember those who will follow us, the children presently in our care and those not yet come to light, who will inherit the work of our hands and hearts. In the silence now, we sit surrounded by these many connections, visible and invisible, that remind us every day we are not alone. Let us enter into the silence for a full minute. Amen and blessed be. As the music begins playing in a moment, I invite you to come forward and light a candle of joy or of sorrow. I will assist you with those, and at the end, I will light additional candles for those joys and sorrows that remain unexpressed, and for those that are joining us out in YouTube land. You know, a mask is effective if you can't blow out a candle working. I just wanted to make mention that if you have something on your heart and could use a listening ear, we do have a pastoral care team that's available to meet with you either on the phone or through email or in person. My name is Pam Johnson, and I'm a member of that team. Wendy Sapp and our minister, Mandy Goheen, are also part of that committee, so feel free to reach out to us. I don't know that the information's not in our bulletin, but I know it's sent out with our weekly email, or you could see me after the service if you have something you'd like to share.
I'm Nikki Osbeck, for those who don't know me. I'm glad you're here this morning. And I did have the privilege of knowing Charles and Jean McGee. So there may be some other people here, I'm guessing, that also, so raise your hand. And we will always reference them, those of us who got to know them. So Charles McGee came to this church in 1976 in retirement. He was here half-time. He had finished he had been at the Jacksonville UU Church before that from 1960 until he came here in 76. And he was wanting to work part-time. Why come to Chattanooga? Jean and Charles were married in Mentone, Alabama, and so they wanted to retire in Mentone, and they ended up having a house there, and this is fairly close to Mentone. My job this morning is to explain why, after all these years, we would be talking about Charles and what he said. One is, I'm very guilty, I'm very sentimental, I'm very appreciative of all the people who came before, who started this church, who kept this church going. I'm so glad it's here. The other reason is what he said has no time limit. It is, we still have major social justice issues to address. Judy Gallagher told me that this week in Tennessee, 4,000 people joined Moms Demand Action against gun violence, 4,000. So it's timeless. And the third reason is because of who they are. Charles and Jean live with us in our memories and in his words. Jean McGee, I'll say first, told me once when she first met Charles, she fell in love with him immediately. She knew that would be who she would marry. He was first in radio, and during the time that he was running a radio station in Alabama from the South, someone he was working with said, "You're a Unitarian." He didn't know it, and he started going to a Unitarian fellowship, and then Jean helps him go through seminary and become a minister. In the Jacksonville church in 1960, when they were very active at the time that in their community. At the time he left Jacksonville, there were 220 children in their RE program in their church. So the community knew the McGees. When the NAACP did a Hall of Remembrance in Jacksonville for the people who helped that community during the time of desegregation and civil rights, the only white people who had their picture on the walls were the McGees. That community was very grateful, and they have a memorial garden at the Jacksonville church named the Charles McGee Memorial Garden. Why do we come to church? There are two theories. One, to be better people. One, for the spiritual feeling we get that we get no other place when we're with people of like mind, this moment to reflect on our lives. Charles made me a better person by the questions he asked each week. It was not to be missed. You didn't want to miss a Sunday. And it was, there was a talk about after each sermon where people would ask questions. And I needed a dictionary almost. It was like reading a New York Times article. Every now and then there was a word that was used I didn't know. And it was a learning curve for me. So a personal recollection of Charles was, at the time he was here, there was a lawsuit against Bible in the schools, which was very fundamentally presented in terms of the Bible. It was not the history of the Bible or the lessons that we could learn. It was how it was being presented. And the three families who brought the lawsuit were all from this church. Two were working at the university where I was working at UTC. And Charles asked me, he said, do you think the reason they asked David Wiley to step down as department head of the theater department was because he was one of the three plaintiffs in this lawsuit, which they won, by the way? And I didn't know. I was a young faculty member. I was young and naive faculty member. And today I would answer that question, oh, absolutely. That was the reason. That was the university succumbing, reacting to the political pressure that was brought to bear. I know that was so. I know the chancellor at the time became a bail bondsman after he left UTC. So that's fact. I'm just telling you the fact. But Charles would ask questions each week that made me think of life in a different way. And so that's really what we're trying to capture today by sharing with you some of his words. Jean McGee was wonderful too. She taught English at Baylor School. And Charles Redwine, who's a member of this congregation, who's not here this morning, but I'm going to tell you, Charles might not have learned to read if Jean hadn't been his tutor. She sat down and made sure he learned to read. At Baylor School, she became friends with the French teacher, Madame Cheney, who was Cheney, who is Monique Sykes's Louis' mother. So that's how we have Monique. They were such good friends that Jean wrote a book about their friendship. There were few women teaching at Baylor School at that time. It had been an all-boys school for many, many years. And when Madame Cheney started teaching there, there was one women's bathroom on campus. So regardless of whether she was having to run from building to building, are y'all with me? That's been changed, but I just thought I'd let you know the times were somewhat different. So it is our pleasure to share Charles McGee and Jean McGee this morning. Wonderful, wonderful people.
Steve, may I have just a moment?
Oh, yes, please. I was
This is,
expecting somebody else would talk.
In 1978, when Lena and I first came here.
John, would you please use a microphone for people who can't hear without it?
Come on down.
There's one on the page. Go on down.
Well, I didn't have that much to say. In 1978, when Lena Ruth and I first
came to this church, we would be standing on the roof now in the half-completed building where Charles White McGehee preached. And it was downstairs along this outside wall, so you could see behind him out that way, and we all sat on bleachers. We had like gym bleachers. So I want you to kind of picture that scene as we hear one of his sermons now.
And I have a couple of thoughts before I get into the meat of the sermon. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, we have 6 sources of our wisdom. One is from a prophetic people, and just one of the things that was a theme in our working on this service together, when in McGee's time, that was prophetic women and men. Okay, so some language has changed over the years. And, you know, if you get us aside, you could probably find out just exactly what we tweaked, but I hope it just comes through the way we want it to. And I'd like you all to know something behind the scenes. This service is really responding to the exigency of a previously scheduled service that could not be held today. And so that meant that the tradition tenders and the history mavens suddenly had their eyes light up that there had been for years the wisdom in the office that said, you ever get to a Sunday morning and nobody shows up to preach? Well, go in the bottom drawer here, you can pull out something and, you know, we'll carry on. We had at least a few days to work on this, and, you know, something wonderful happened. And so I'm glad that we can bring this to you all. I certainly loved what I'm about to read to you, and here goes. I approach this letter with a sense of disconnection. I cannot address you as sir. A supreme being should transcend the masculine or feminine genders. Furthermore, in the scriptures ascribed to you, you specify a secondary status to women, that they remain silent in church and be obedient to their husbands. Yet, because of cultural conditioning, I confess that at stages of my development, you have been something of a father figure to me. I shall strive to be open and honest. You will observe that I've gone through the natural stages of dependence, doubts, rebellion, and attempts at reconciliation. These words are not to be taken lightly either by either of us nor the members of our congregation with whom I'm sharing them. I have indeed cried out to you, saying, remove this pain. In moments of ecstasy and gratitude, I have said, thank you, God. At times of despair, I have implored you Please let me die. I have been known to use your name in vain in frustration at inability to find another word to express my indignation. When I was a child, I was taught to tell you good night, saying, if I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. You were a second father, much more powerful than my earthly father. You loved me, but you were jealous and sometimes vindictive. The pictures I saw of you were those of a white Anglo-Saxon Moses-like figure. I've been told that people create gods in their own images. Chinese gods, for instance, would have slanted eyes. An African god would be black. You chose certain nations, setting them apart. When nations went to war, often over differing beliefs about you, you sometimes chose sides. Usually both sides thought they were your advocate. As I write this letter, your Catholic children and your Protestant children are killing each other in Ireland. Your Christian and Muslim children are killing each other in Lebanon. Your Jewish and Muslim children are at the brink of war. Your choice of certain people have caused feelings of smugness and superiority, leading to prejudice and war. You are said to carry a terrible, swift sword. I was taught that you created the earth and all in it over a period of 7 days. As I learned more about science and the findings of Darwin in particular, it became evident that a process exists in the universe, orderly and magnificent, that required millions of years, moving through clearly observable stages. From childhood, I was told that something had to have created heaven and earth. There had to have been a first cause, a prime mover. It could not have just happened. I came to resent that you were the only explanation for that seemingly miraculous creation. We may never know, I thought, but there must be other, more logical answers. It came to bother me that according to your scriptures, you were first a Jewish God, then evolved into a Judeo-Christian God. You seem not to be speaking out over such injustices as the slaughter of 6 million of your Jewish children by their Christian brothers in my own lifetime. Even as a small child, I wondered about these problems. I asked questions about them, and my questions were said to be evil. Something just didn't make sense. All good things come from you. Everything I accomplished was willed by you. All of the bad things were either my fault or attributed to a demigod named Satan, who often seems superior in tactics to you. You had powers of life and death, but you sat with folded hands as horrible things occurred. I was told that if I believed strongly enough, you would and could do anything for me. There were times in childhood when I did believe totally, and you did not accomplish my justice. I resented that I was commanded to love you and admonished to fear you. These issues truly bothered me. I thought about them a great deal. It has taken me years to think them through. Even now, I have moments of uncertainty. Sometimes I just don't want to talk about them. Certainly I can understand why others have their own difficulty in coming to terms with you, and that they cannot understand how I feel. Why is it important that I believe in you? My belief has little to do with your existence. You either exist or you do not exist. As a supreme being, you should be above jealousy or insecurity. The arguments for or against your existence are meaningless to me. The ontological and teleological arguments or proofs I studied in graduate school for the ministry are semantic games, too easily solidifying into dogma. Dogma restricts human growth. Millions believed you sent your only begotten Son to prove your existence and your love. A miracle brought about his birth. A senseless murder caused his death. As a child, I could not understand why your Son was born a Jew, died in the Judaic faith, and yet was said to have commanded the establishment of a new religion. So many people speak for you. Why can't you speak for yourself? Who really speaks for you? Martin Luther with his anti-Semitism, or Martin Luther King with his love and nonviolence? Jerry Falwell with his prophetic madness, or Daniel Berrigan with his plea for the meaningless of any murder? Why is it that those who speak with the strongest voices for peace so often die at the hands of a mob or the pistol of a misguided soul? It's logical for us to ask that if you exist in the form the theologians say you exist, why do you allow these things to happen? Personally, I don't think you allow them to happen. They occurred in the context of the human condition. I don't think you allow violence, poverty, and pain to occur. They come through human neglect, human greed, human insecurity. Because of this, I have no bitterness, no blame toward you, only a certain detachment. So the evolution of my views. At first, you were a Jewish superperson high in the sky who created me, loved me, but who could strike me dead. Then you became a Judeo-Christian God who seemed more Christian than Jewish. A God divided into three parts: a Father, a Son, and an indistinguishable Spirit. You seemed ashamed of your Jewishness. Then to me, you became a Unitarian God, a God of oneness, of all people, of harmony and justice. You created the universe and left us to our freedom and responsibility, which was kind of a compliment. Eventually, you became, for me, existent in all things, a naturalistic, pantheistic force, a power which was beyond those things of personal whimsy and expression, available through quest and travail, in all things, constantly reshaping in partnership with millions of humans like myself, growth through revision and reshaping. Truth, as I saw truth, was uncompromising. Logic, as I saw logic, was inevitable but powerful. Belief was secondary to the just life and to the fact of existence. In due time, you lost identity to me as a person God. To me, the father figure died, became a shell or a memory, be abandoned like a cocoon to allow a more meaningful, more beautiful growth. When I'm asked if I believe in you, I think of the word God as a Teutonic term or a Judaic bearded figure, Michelangelo wielding a terrible flaming sword. To believe that you exist in that sense is idolatrous and disrespectful, hollow and negative. Your name is a word I cannot use lightly. This is my problem, not that of others who maintain their own vocabularies. When I speak to my friends about this problem, I advise them to know what or to whom it is they are addressing. And yet, I find myself addressing this communication to you. Paul of Tarsus went to Athens to the Areopagus. Among the many altars to the many deities, he found an altar with the inscription, "To an unknown God." To your disrespect, I somehow think this is the best altar of all. It seemed to bother Paul as he argued with the Jews and the Stoics and the Epicureans. The wisdom of it seemed to confound him, this agnostic admission that we might not have all the facts, that we had best keep asking questions, doing justly, and administering mercy. Many of these thoughts went through my mind last week as I went to Mississippi for the funeral of my brother Ben. To the best of anyone's ability, I have come to terms with death, but there was something intimate and a bit unreal about the death of my brother Ben. He was only 2 years older than I am, very much involved in life, enjoying his retirement from a successful food brokerage. On the baseball field in high school, I'd seen him get 6 hits from 6 times at bat in a single game. When he was 10, I heard the sounds of his anguish as he was beaten by my father half a night because he was slow in learning to recite a poem assigned in school. He had weathered the Depression, was a good husband and a remarkable father. He was a kind of stable force in our large family. On most issues, from Reaganomics to gun control, we disagreed, but we communicated well and loved and admired each other. The minister at Ben's funeral was creditable in concern for the family and in general respect for my brother, but some of my old theological bitterness emerged when he turned to Ben's widow and said, "I know you are concerned that your husband had been to church only several times in the last 20 years, but I remind you that our master once said, 'This day shall you be with me in paradise.'" They were well-intended, truly sincere words to reassure my brother's wife. They were meant as a statement of tolerance and acceptance that you, the great Father in the sky, could accept into eternity even a thief. My brother Ben was not a thief. He was a noble, wise, and utterly genuine man who actually believed most of the tenets of that Baptist church in Jackson, Mississippi. He considered himself a devout Christian. He just did not see the necessity for going to church. It would be impossible for me, as I write, to put on these pages the nature of the bitterness I felt at that moment. It soon dissipated. But even then, I thought of the words of Eugene Gant in Thomas Wolfe's "Look Homeward, Angel." He is watching the death of his brother Ben, the only person on earth who seemed to understand him. It was midnight as the great beast of night softly prowled about the house. At the side of the bed, he began to pray. He did not believe in God, nor in heaven or hell, but he was afraid they might be true. He did not believe in angels with soft faces and bright wings, but he believed in the dark spirits that hovered over the heads of lonely men. He believed in Ben's bright demon, to whom he had seen him speak many times. Eugene did not believe in these things, but he was afraid they might be true. All that he had read in books, all the tranquil wisdom he had professed so glibly in his philosophy course, and the great names of Plotinus, of Spinoza and Immanuel Kant, of Hegel and Descartes, left him now under the mastering surge of his wild Celtic superstition. So, with insane sing-song repetition, he began to mutter over and over again, "Whoever you are, be good to Ben tonight, show him the way. Whoever you are, be good to Ben tonight, show him the way. Whoever you are, be good to Ben tonight, show him the way." Then Thomas Wolfe wrote, "We can believe in the nothingness of life. We can believe in the nothingness of death. But who can believe in the nothingness of Ben?" So I end this letter. There are no more relevant words anywhere. If by some infinitesimal chance, by some utter disregard of my sense of reason and justice, they wend their way through the spaces, across the planets, and around the stars to some source of awareness and creativity, may we both be the better for it.
Thank you, Steve. At this point in our service, we have an invitation to be generous. I'd like to share these words from John Saxon. This religious community exists, or any religious community exists by its mission as a fire exists by burning, but a fire cannot burn without fuel. And it is the time, the energy, the imagination, the vision, the creativity, the compassion, the love, and yes, the financial support of the members and friends of this community that fuels our mission to nurture and sustain a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse liberal religious community that transforms lives and serves the world. Your support, the free and generous support of each member and friend of this community, is what fuels this community and its mission. And without it, the flame of justice, community, and love cannot burn brightly to warm ourselves and to be a beacon in a world threatened by division and fear. I will add that we are continuing our pledge campaign, and if you were like me and you picked up your pledge card and you took it home and immediately lost it, in a pile of, on the kitchen table. There are pledge cards, I believe, still in our fellowship area. Farron, our office administrator, will help you locate one. I had to do that myself, so I made sure to turn mine in. And when you've completed it, there is a front and a back. I almost turned mine in half complete. You can come and place it in this box. And a little bit, if you are new to Unitarian Universalism, a little bit of knowledge about the faith. This church, along with Baptist and probably Congregationalist, has what is known as congregational polity, which means that we make our own decisions, we decide what ministers to call, etc. But it also means we support ourselves. This is in comparison to churches that have episcopal polity, like the Catholics, the bishops, the Lutherans, the Methodists, and so forth, that they have a hierarchy and there is some degree of support from the higher ups. So bearing that in mind, I ask you to give generously to the life and work of this church. If you are visiting for the first time, feel free to let the plate pass you by. You're our guest. Please join me in our words for dedicating our offering. You'll find them in your order of service. We give these gifts freely, committed to our mission to care, create beloved community, awaken hearts and minds, resist injustice and act with compassion, embrace life, and care for the earth. To this work, we dedicate our offering. And now for our closing song, please rise and body your spirit for hymn number 1, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door.
And due to time, we're going to sing just the first and last verse of this hymn. So just the first and last verse.
May nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep hate out and hold love in.
I think I have to lower this a bit. Hi, I'm Dee Springer, and I'm a member of the Working on Worship group that's been working on this service, and it's been a real delight to get to know Charles McGee doing it. Let me share with you a closing reading, also words of Charles McGee that he delivered in Jacksonville in 1972. We rejoice this day in the wondrous powers of earth and sky that sustain us, and in the wondrous powers of our human minds and hearts, that we can remember and select our ways, that we can feel the hurt of others, that we may be ashamed and afraid, that we can laugh and sing and play, that we can reason together and together fashion a life of common good. We rejoice that we have a part in the web of life that holds us all stars and suns, all elements and spirits, and every living thing. We rejoice that in the world there is no wholly severed thing or separate creature. Let us then expand this wholeness, making ourselves a deeper part of its harmony, giving ourselves more fully to the larger community and the broader realm of the spirit. Charles McGee again. And I think it's now time to extinguish the chalice, and then we'll do some other.
Marge, will you come forward to extinguish our chalice? Please join me in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but keep the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world.
Okay, now is our time for what we call so what? What does all this mean to us? And I know there are a few people here in the sanctuary, other than Mickey, who knew Charles McGee personally. One of them I know is Leslie O'Rear, and I wondered if you had anything you'd like to share with us. And anybody else who knew Charles and has a short memory, because we are running a little late, but I would like to hear what your memories and what you gained from knowing him. Come on up, Leslie. All right, yeah. 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 Can we move the mic down there?
Got another one at the table.
Oh, there we go. You got it. There we go. Christian's going to help you.
I'm scared to go up steps these days, sorry. I'll make it brief, but Charles and Jean were good friends of ours, and my husband, Buck, I'm Leslie O'Rear. My husband, Buck, was president, and I got to know Charles real well, having lots of lunches together and stuff. But one of my memories is that for a time, he and Jean lived in a house down here on Germantown Road and married my daughter. We went over to their house in the morning, and we discovered that because she married a Frenchman, their family really insisted on her being baptized, and she hadn't been baptized. So Charles baptized my daughter on the spot, and then he performed the ceremony, and then we drank champagne and went on our way. So it was really nice, and that was 40-something years ago now. And then they moved down to Mentone, but they had a motorhome up here on the parking lot for a time, and it had an elevator in it so that Charles was able, because he couldn't walk up down steps, he was able to go down, and one day it stuck, and he called my husband, who came and rescued him. So I have some good personal memories from it.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you very much, Leslie. Yeah, just put it down there. Anybody else? Sandy Kurtz.
I'm Sandy Kurtz. Charles was always a calm, reasoning person. He would advise in ways of just sort of questioning and asking a few deep thoughts, and then come out with his ideas of ways that we could work with certain people, especially in religious education. We had many a conversation about young people in the religious education department that I was working with as head of the committee at that time, and how we would deal with some of the recalcitrant students that were there. Always good advice, always, for sure. Well, what I remember working with him most on was, with Leslie and I, we were newsletter editors. And once a week, we would be in this office, And Charles, before that, he was the newsletter writer. He really liked the writing part of it, and he put the newsletter together as much as anything we ever did. We were mostly folders. we had to hand fold the newsletter, and that's. But working with him, as he would be, it wasn't said. Leslie mentioned that he was disabled. I don't think that people know that his spine was fused. He could not sit. He was either lying down or standing up. And many a conversation I had with Charles, he'd be lying on the couch and we'd have a lovely, pleasant conversation about ways in which the church could move on and how we reached out to people in loving ways.
Thank you both for sharing. We learned a lot today. Now it's time for announcements. And I know there are a number of announcements. I think Christian and Selena, you are standing back there with plants. Does that have anything to do with an announcement?
Good. Should have put my glasses on. Anyway. I'm Selena, and this is my helper, Christian. Anyway, as you may know by now, we're trying to raise money for our summer study series for adult education. And so what Christian and I did this morning is we went out and we harvested things from our garden. So we've got a lot of basil, if you want some basil, and we have some romaine lettuce as well, and then lots and lots of native plants as well. So these come straight from our garden, and a lot of the plants are in cow pots, which are made of, well, you guessed it. Anyway, made of what cows have left behind as well, which is great, actually, because well, they don't smell, which is great. Anyway, you can just put them straight into the ground, and they'll actually fertilize the ground, and there's no plastic involved. So anyway, what we're asking for you to do is if you feel moved to support adult education, please give us a donation for whatever plants or green leaves that you take with you. However, if you don't want to, you can also just take a plant. But I hope you'll be generous and help our adult education. As an example, this pot has about 6 separate coreopsis plants in it. I recommend about a $20 donation for that. The smaller plants, $5 is what I recommend. But as you feel moved, and knowing that we're going to have a really great program starting in July on Sunday mornings.
And remember, you cannot overspend, because it's all for the good cause of the summer program, with a fantastic summer program for 6 or 7 Sundays going. So.
And this will be at forum time at 9:30 on Sunday mornings, beginning
July 10th. Beginning July 10th. Okay. Yes.
Do you want to shortly explain?
Oh, okay. I'm talking a lot, but we have speakers actually from all over the state that are coming in. We have someone coming in from the Southern Alliance for Clean Energy to talk to us. Well, I'll just tell you who's going to be here, and it'll be some really great topics, all related to environmental justice. So there's that one. There's someone from the Southern Environmental Law Center. I'm getting all the southern ones out of the way. The Southeast Tennessee Young Farmers Coalition will come speak to us. Someone from Crabtree Farms will come talk to us about food insecurity in the Chattanooga area. The Tennessee Environmental Council will also be represented. And then Dr. John Tucker from UTC will come speak to us about the Superfund sites in Chattanooga and how they're being cleaned up as well. So it's going to be very, very interesting. It'll be time of learning a lot and also discussion, too. Starting on July 10th and for 7 Sundays. So mostly it'll be at 9:30, the usual forum time that we used to have. We're going to have 2 programs that are also after church, because we have speakers coming in from Nashville, okay? But I'll make sure that everybody's informed. It'll be in the newsletter, and we'll have a poster up as well, so you'll know exactly when that program is. Okay, Jay, did you have a question? Oh, okay, good, because I need to stop talking. I would love to turn it over. Yes.
Yeah, I've got the announcements. Hi, everyone. My name is Farron Cloyd. I'm the office administrator here at UUCC, if you don't know me. I've just got some really quick announcements. First thing, next Sunday, June 12th, is our annual meeting. I know everyone is super excited about that. The meeting will happen directly after service next week, and we encourage all members who are able to attend so we can reach a quorum. I don't know what the tense of that is. Everyone is welcome to join the meeting, but only members will be able to vote. We're going to vote on the budget for next fiscal year and elect board members, nominating committee members, and GA delegates. Please plan to be here. We are currently hiring folks to work in the nursery with children ages infant to 3. The full job description is on our website on the employment opportunities page. Feel free to share that with anyone you think would be interested. If anyone's interested in applying, please reach out to our DRE, Camille Mason. Her contact information is on the back of your bulletin, or you can reach out to the office and we will get you in contact with her as well.
Do you happen to know what the number is for a quorum right now?
I believe it's around 30 members, but we need as many as possible. As many as possible. Just another reminder, Rev Mandy is out of town on vacation this week. She will be back in time for annual meeting next Sunday, so if you need to get in contact with her, reach out to me in the office first and I can relay any information to her. We do have a social justice meeting right after service. You can find Judy Gallagher for more information. This is going to be planning the agenda for the Social Justice Committee for the next year, so definitely get involved with that. It's a great time to hop in and join the committee. The last announcement I have is that I found these really cute keys in the bathroom. They have a little bedazzled goat on it. If these are your keys with the Subaru, yep, there we go. Found. That's all I got.
I think Judy has something to add there. You'll be next, Jay.
She covered a few things, but you can also see Judith Peterson Ben about social justice. We will be meeting here at 12:30. I don't know if she said that. She just said after, so grab coffee or whatever, and then we'll meet. I also wanted to invite you, I think you saw in the newsletter, tomorrow here at 5:30. Nikki mentioned Moms Demand Action and how it's increased across the state. We had another mass shooting here last night. I just was aware of during choir today. So some of us Moms Demand Action local volunteers are going down after the Social Justice Committee meeting. I'm going with meeting other people from Chattanooga to stand in solidarity with some of our survivors. We had a big survivors event yesterday, so it's just non-ending. But if you would like to learn more about moms, it's an organizing committee for people that are interested in moms tomorrow here at 5:30. Also, the Social Justice Committee is sponsoring us to march in June 13th. Judith did get us signed up, so I want to know about you to know about that. Juneteenth, I mean, on June 18th. Juneteenth on June 18th, and that lineup is at 3. The parade's at 4 at Orchard Knob, on Orchard Knob at the Carver Center. So that's coming up in 2 weeks. So make sure you know about that. Thank you so much.
Come on up, Jay.
I was just saying, this Saturday at Miller Park at noon is March for Our Lives Chattanooga.
Are there any other announcements? Okay. I think that is the end of this. Well, the service actually ended when we extinguished the chalice, but now we can go socialize and have some coffee.